There are moments in our lives when we search for someone who can guide us, lead us, and protect us. Someone we can bank on. Someone we can trust to be by our side come what may. We are blessed if we have found such a friend or a family member as our confidant and inspiration. Traditionally, the fourth Sunday of Easter is known as Good Shepherd Sunday. Shepherding is one of the earliest human occupations. The word shepherd appears 35 times in the Holy Bible. In Genesis 49:24, we are told that Joseph was saved by the power of the shepherd. Psalm 80 is about the shepherd of Israel. Amos 3:12 reminds us that it was important that the shepherd guards the sheep. John 10:1 cautions of the danger that thieves might sneak among the sheep and carry them off. The most popular reference to the shepherd is in Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want. The Gospel provides us with one of the loveliest images of Jesus, namely the Good Shepherd. Many of us have that childhood image of a smiling Jesus sitting under a tree with a cute lamb in his lap. And another enduring image is of Jesus standing with a lamb across his shoulders and a staff in his hand. Both these are beautiful images depicting love and security. In big cities and towns, we hardly ever get to see shepherds and their flock. It is interesting to learn about certain behavior patterns of shepherds and sheep. A shepherd is a simple and illiterate person. A shepherd is also someone who cares, especially for the weak and the lost sheep of his flock. Shepherds share a deep personal relationship with each one of their sheep. It requires constant presence, utmost dedication, and unconditional care. When cows and buffaloes are left for grazing, they stay where there is grass. They do not roam or wander far away. Sheep, on the other hand, constantly stray and move about, often seeking high and dangerous ground. Thus, it becomes necessary to keep them under control sometimes, to the peril of the shepherd. Cows and buffaloes distinguish between good and bad grass. Sheep feed on anything, including poisonous creepers. Thus, the shepherd needs to follow closely and be where the sheep are. When danger is present, cows and buffaloes outrun each other for safety. Sheep stand still, paralyzed by fear. They become vulnerable to the attack of wild animals. Thus, the shepherd needs to remain constantly vigilant at all times. It demands his time, his energy, and even his life. Good shepherds do not think about themselves. They are interested only in the welfare and safety of their sheep. Shepherding, therefore, is an exhausting work and a hard and risky job. Shepherds generally live together in groups. They move together and share a common bond. On an average, each shepherd in the group has 50 to 70 sheep which belong to him. During the day, each shepherd takes his sheep and moves out in different directions in search of green pasture for the sheep to graze. At sunset, they all return to a common place, and the sheep are all put together in a common pen or enclosure. All the sheep get mixed up. Nobody knows which sheep belongs to which shepherd. The next morning, it is not a problem for the shepherds to sort out and find out their sheep. Sheep recognize human voice. A little lamb may not recognize its mother's bleat, but it will never fail to recognize its shepherd's voice. All the shepherd has to do is call aloud, and all his sheep follow him. Jesus in John 10:17 says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them and they follow me." In the Gospel, Jesus refers to himself as the Good Shepherd. "I know my own, and my own know me." It is Jesus who takes the initiative to call. In today's world, there are many conflicting voices calling us. It is extremely difficult to identify the voice of the Good Shepherd. A priest was once asked, "Father, how do we recognize God's voice?" The priest replied, "You recognize God's voice like you recognize anybody else's voice, through familiarity. The more you listen to your friend's voice, the more easily you recognize his or her voice, even if your friend is not visible or physically present. The more you listen to God's voice, the more easily you will recognize God's voice in the midst of 1,000 voices." Mary Magdalene was able to instantly recognize the voice of Jesus the moment he called her Mary. She was attuned to the voice of Jesus. Are we in tune with and attuned to the voice of Jesus, or are we out of God's network and coverage area? We sometimes believe it would be so good for us if we lived at the time that Jesus lived in this world. It would be easier to believe if we were in contact with him. Yet the fact remains that when Jesus came into the world, very few people recognized him as the Messiah. Very few people listened to what he had to say because they thought they knew better. We are invited to listen to his voice and not our own, follow him and not going our own way. We need good shepherds today in every walk of life. We live in a world where the name of the game is look after your own interests, because if you don't, no one else will. An attitude of caring is unfashionable these days. We hear of euthanasia, people wanting to get rid of the very old and the terminally ill. We also hear of parents wanting to get rid of their unborn babies. The reason for this is people are not willing to care. We need caring people. We need good shepherds in our homes, good shepherds in our schools, in our hospitals, in public life, in the church. Great leaders have impacted their followers while they lived, but only one has a greater influence after he died: Jesus Christ. We are invited to trust our Good Shepherd and be shepherds to others. Let us ask Jesus, our Good Shepherd, to help us be more like him. Amen.